Okay, Buddha glace. So the first thing we start with is whole loaves of white bread. And they need to sit out on the cupboard uncovered to dry out and get a little bit stale for 3 or 4 days. So that's already been done with these. It's got to be white bread and it's got to be whole in one piece. So I see the first step that Grandma's already done is you cut the crusts off the outside. And we're using them for something, but I'm not sure what. We'll find out soon enough. Okay, so what's going on here, Grandma?
Well, you're putting them out on a cookie sheet, and then you're going to bake them till they're brown.
Okay, what temperature are we going to bake them at?
350.
350. And how long?
Till they're brown.
Till they're brown? That's approximately...
I don't know.
Okay, you just watch them. Bake them till they're brown. Alright. So we're taking chunks of bread, putting them in the blender. Oh, somebody's at the door. Who's here? Ding dong. Hello! You came. We're just making a cooking show right now. We're doing Buddha glace.
How you doing there, buddy?
Good.
Oh, let's see.
All right. So you can only put so much in at a time. Blend. Oh, there we go. Blend. So it's nice and crummy.
Always
So
bring it forward because
does it matter what size of chunk? Do they have to be? Can be any
but
size.
usually the smaller the better.
The smaller the better. And then how much do you think the blender can handle?
That's about it, I think.
Okay.
Of it.
All right. We'll come back later. This looks like a bit of a process. All right. So that's about what we want the crusts to look like. These ones, we just pulled those out of there. These ones just need a little bit longer. They still have a little bit of white on them. They need to be all brown. Okay, so now that the crusts are out of the oven, we take a rolling pin and crush them a bit. And now we're going to put these into the blender. You can't put them straight in because they don't work that well. And we're going to put less in the blender for these than we did of the bread. Okay, so we got crusts out of the oven. We're rolling pin them to crush them because they don't work well in the blender. In those big chunks. Okay, and then we're taking them, putting them in the blender. Not too much. We're going to blend them and then put them in a separate bowl. See, there's our big bowl of other breadcrumbs over there waiting. Okay, we've got all of our white crumbs and all of our crusty crumbs. Now we're going to measure them. How many cups? This green cup is a...
It's exactly like a measuring cup.
It's exactly like a measuring cup. So 1 cup. Okay, how many?
Have to count them.
How many?
All of them.
Oh, we're just counting them.
Yeah.
Okay. We're counting them for the sake of counting them so we know how much we have. Probably because you need a ratio with those.
Yeah.
What's the ratio? 2. Alright, I'll come back. 3. Alright, so we counted all the breadcrumbs and it ended up being 15 cups. So as you see on this recipe here, it calls for 10 cups of breadcrumbs. So that means we're going to 1.5 times the recipe. Alright, so since we're doing a recipe and a half, we are putting 1.5 cups of milk in a saucepan here, and we're going to make it very hot, like almost boiling. And we're over here, we have our allspice ready. And we're going to bring the white breadcrumbs over to the table while we're waiting for the milk. Is there anything we do in the meantime?
Yeah, you measure out your allspice and mix it well into the white crumbs.
Okay, how much allspice is going in?
Well, put 1 3/4 teaspoons first.
And then half of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hot. We mix it in with the brown crusts.
With the brown crust?
We mix the two crumbs together.
Okay. So I'm just mixing the allspice here in with the white crumbs. We're waiting for the milk still. I should go stir it. You gotta stir the milk every once in a while to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. Our milk is ready. We've got our dark crumbs here. I'm pouring a little bit in at a time and mixing as we go. Are we going to use all of it?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
That's what the recipe calls for.
Still need some more. They all got to be moistened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you need all of it.
All right, we got it all in there. A couple more drips. I'm trying to stay on top of the dishes. All right.
You got some milk spilled here, Angie.
Yes, I will clean that up. You see this? That's the chicken broth. Guess what we're having for lunch? Okay, so what are we going to do with this once it's all moistened?
Mix it in with that.
Huh.
And then we add the milk and the butter. So we got to get the butter on melting.
Okay, oh, we're adding more milk too?
I mean, eggs and butter.
Oh, eggs and butter. Okay, so I'm going to start melting some butter. How much butter are we going to melt? So our recipe calls for 1 1/4, so we're doing a bit more than 1 3/4 of butter. So we're just gonna melt that whole pound and have some ready for when we make cinnamon buns. Okay, so Grandma got all the crumbs nice and moist, and now we're mixing them in with the white crumbs that have allspice in them. We're melting the butter on the stove. We're gonna add some eggs soon.
Eggs and butter is all that we add yet.
Eggs and butter. Are we gonna stir all this together before we add eggs and butter?
Yeah, but it's better to mix it by hand.
By hand? Okay. Alright, hands are gonna get messy. Off with the camera. I'll be back soon. Okay, so we've started with the eggs now. The butter is melting. Since the recipe calls for, with 10 cups of breadcrumbs, it calls for 5 eggs. But we have 15 cups of breadcrumbs, so we're gonna start with 6 eggs and see how it goes.
Depends on the size of the eggs, you know.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the eggs, and you don't want there to be too many eggs because then they'll be tough. Hands?
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm gonna squish the eggs, pop, until they're kind of mixed, and then I'm gonna start mixing them into the crumbs with my hands. It's a messy job, but somebody's got to do it, especially if we want to have Buddha glace for lunch.
Big one. We just want to see how they hold.
Okay, so last we were filming, I was just starting with the eggs, but my hands got very messy, and we added butter. We didn't quite use as much butter as the recipe called for, because we happened to get the right consistency, and 6 eggs was good enough too. They're sticking very well, as you can see, and we're going to start rolling these into balls. How big would you say these are? About an inch?
Well,
I'd say
you can make them bigger, you can make them smaller.
you can make them bigger, you can make them smaller. Oh,
Are your hands clean?
Yes, I just washed them. Okay, so what are we doing here?
Just testing it. Boiling it in some broth to test it to see if it's the right
Consistency.
yeah.
Okay, before we go through all the work to roll up thousands of balls, we do one Buddha Glace test.
Balls, balls, balls.
Yep, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. That's what we're having for lunch.
Balls?
Buddha Glace.
Buddha Glace.
And noodles.
And noodles. Homemade noodles. Wonderful. Alright, so we have them cut. We have it cooked. We cut it open to check the consistency. And I think that the word is that they're perfect.
Tell you when I taste it.
Okay, here's the taste test.
It's a blue jay. The bird. The bird is a blue jay. A
Good?
bird.
You eat the rest of them.
Just right?
A blue jay is a bird. A bird is a blue jay. I'll tell you what some birds are. Magpie.
Tell me what you think.
Tweety bird.
Just right.
They're not tough and they're not falling apart.
They're not falling apart, they're not tough. Just right. Okay, what's your chicken broth technique?
Just boil the bones with salt. And not too much salt because you're going to add some chicken soup filling with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I recommend you go to the supermarket, they usually have it in the bulk. And you want to see it, it's in the bottom there in a
It's just powder, it's not bouillon cubes.
no, it's powder.
Okay. And you add some onions?
And onions. When the water is boiling, when the meat is boiling already, I never add the onions.
Okay. So now we're gonna start making the balls. This is an ungreased sheet. And okay, Grandma's gonna explain the technique. Okay, you take a chunk, kind of squish it in your hand.
You get the feel of in the palm of your hand about how big you want them.
Yeah. And then you roll them up and stack them neatly on a tray. So then after this, we're going to freeze them, right? Except we're taking enough out for lunch today.
Yeah.
So that recipe that we made ended up making, what was it? 76
No,
Buddha Glace?
76 down there and 8. The 8 we're going to eat.
Okay. And so we made some chicken broth, added some homemade noodles, but that's another story for another day. We threw in the Buddha Glace. We boiled them for about 10 or 15 minutes. Grandma says they're holding together perfectly. Oh, here's the taste test.
I'm not tasting the Buddha Glace right now.
Oh,
I'm
just
checking
take-
the noodles.
Okay. Oh, she's checking the noodles to see if the noodles are the right consistency. Buddha Glace and homemade noodles. How'd they turn out? What do you think? 2 thumbs up and a smile.
Awesome.
Awesome with a full mouth. Oh, and a dance.
No, not a dance.
Oh, what is that?
Thing.
Oh, they're so good. You can't believe it. You almost fainted.